Good evening, everybody. Thank you to everybody in person and everybody who's joining us virtually via Zoom. My name is Kahya. I'm the Executive Director at Habitat for Humanity La Crosse Area, and I'm joined today with our Construction Supervisor, Curtis Miller. We're going to be talking today about weatherizing your home, energy savings made easy. So what are things that we can do on our home without spending a whole lot of money? And I know today is a really bad day as an example for cold weather. I think we hit almost 70 degrees in the middle of December, but the cold weather's coming. We know it is. And so as the weather gets colder, as the holiday seasons approach, I think we all are looking for ways to save a little bit of money and stay warmer over the winter months. So the agenda for today, it's going to be pretty simple. 3 different things. We're going to talk about simple energy saving tips for everybody. We're also going to have Curtis on hand to show us some things that we can do on our own in our homes. And then we're going to give you some additional resources to get more information if you were bitten by the energy saving bug tonight. So the U.S. Department of Energy estimates that the typical household can save about 25% of their monthly energy bills by just following a few simple energy saving tips. And that amounts to over $2,000 annually that people can save by really being thoughtful about how they put their house together and what they're doing to save energy. So we're not just talking about the environmental impact, we're talking about the impact to your pocketbooks. So the things we're going to talk about today are fairly simple. Pretty much anybody can do it. You can pick some of the things from the items that would make the biggest impact for you, and hopefully cut down your energy usage and cut down on your monthly energy bills. So I just put out a handout to everybody in the audience, for those of you who are joining us virtually. We're going to share that handout with Heather, and she's going to be posting it on the library's website so that you can access this, but we're going to go through a lot of the top items from this list tonight. And then we're going to ask you in the audience if you have some ideas or things that you do that you'd like to share. And then we're going to learn about more ways to save energy at home with Curtis. So if you want to refer to your handout, I'm going to talk about some of those bigger things. So this handout is a double-page handout. It's got 37 different tips. And these are things that you can literally, there we go.
They're saying it's hard to hear online, so.
Oh, I apologize. Can people hear me better if I don't use the microphone? I think we're okay. I think we get a little feedback. So this has 37 different items on it that you can save energy. And I'm talking about 37 different things that most of them you can get up, go home, and for those of you already at home, as soon as you leave your computers, you can do some of these things and start saving energy right now. So I think the one thing that we all understand is, and I think most married couples have this argument constantly, like what's the perfect temperature in your house? And we fight over the thermostat. But the facts are in the numbers. For every degree that you turn your heat down, you save 3% on your energy bill. 3%. You know, over time, that's a lot of money. So if you can put on a sweater or some warmer socks, or cuddle up in a blanket, or snuggle with a puppy, you save energy and you save money. And that is a force multiplier. So if you're okay with turning it down 2 degrees, that's 6% savings on your energy bill. In the winter months, our biggest costs are our heating costs. And so the more that we can conserve on what we're putting out in our heating bill, the more money you save. And so if you've got a spouse who really likes to crank up the heat, you can give them this math on why you maybe want to turn it down a little bit. Cleaning your filters. This is actually something that when I worked in the weatherization program for Coolie Cap, people don't do. You know, I think we all understand that cleaning our filters or replacing our filters is a really important thing, but it is definitely something we forget to do. And I know that I forget the size of my filter. And so I go to Walmart and I stand in the aisle and I look at them and I go, was it 20? Was it 22? I can't remember. So I've put it in my phone. It's saved in my phone so that if I remember when I'm out and about that it's probably about time I change my filter, I go and buy it, I've got the size in my phone. I also have reminders in my calendar every 6 months to change my filter. You can also get filters that you can wash, and so those are things you don't have to throw away, you don't have to keep buying new ones if you're somebody that, like me, forgets the size of your filter. So this is really important because the air that flows through your furnace flows through that filter. If that filter is clogged, that air is not flowing, your furnace has to work harder. If it works harder, it costs you more money. It takes more energy to heat your house. All right, how many people put a couch over a heat vent? Yeah, I see some hands in the audience. What are you heating? That couch is cozy, but it's not heating your room. This is a really, really simple thing that you can do. So, you know, you've got your feng shui in your room, you like how that chair looks over in the corner, but it's sitting right on top of a heat vent. You're heating the underside of that chair. You're not allowing the air to flow into the room and affect the temperature, the ambient temperature of everybody in that place. So go home, if you're already at home, start checking around and seeing if you have things obstructing your air vents, because that is a huge, huge energy suck, and it's things we don't think about when we're placing furniture and putting the kitchen table there. Those are the things that really can impact how much heat you're using. Opening drapes on sunny days, making sure they're closed at night. Storm windows, storm doors are very important. If you have one of the screens on your doors, that picks up and down, put it down in the winter months. We forget these things all the time, but now you're bringing in colder air. If you're gone for an extended period of time, the rule of thumb is 55 degrees. Things won't freeze if you turn it down. If you keep it at that temperature, any lower, you do risk pipes freezing, depending on where they are and whether they're insulated. But 55 degrees is definitely an okay temperature. So if you're going home for the holidays, you're going to be gone for a couple days, turn that thermostat down to 55 degrees and walk away. Do you have rooms in your house that you're hardly ever in? It's the junk room. It's my craft room. It's the extra bathroom for the guests that nobody ever uses. Why are you heating that room? You have air vents that have these wonderful little opening and closing. Close the vents for the rooms that you're not using and allow the warm air to go into the rooms that you occupy most. So think about that if guests are coming over, open the vents before they arrive so it's not too chilly for them, but when they're not there in the guest bedroom, keep that vent closed. There's no reason for you to be warming that room. Your water heater temperature doesn't need to be any hotter than 120 degrees. A lot of us like really, 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 really hot water. It doesn't need to be that hot. So the rule of thumb, check your water heater, keep that temperature down, because the higher the temperature of the water heater is, the more it has to kick in to reheat that water. So the water temperature drops below normal, it kicks in and it heats that water up unless you have an on-demand water heater. So keep that water heater down, it's going to save you a lot of energy. Use low flow shower heads. That conserves water in your house, and you're paying a water bill. You don't need as much water flow coming out of your faucets, coming out of your shower heads as you think you do. Low flow showers are all over the place. There's aerators that you can put on your sink faucets that will save on the water that you use. How many people like me get really nervous when you don't run the dishwasher and there's dirty dishes in it? That is one of my things that I have a really hard time with. But only turn that dishwasher on when you've got a full load. Make it worth your while. So if you didn't eat enough to fill up your dishwasher, you don't need to run it that night. Rinse the dishes, put them in there, and maybe wait for tomorrow to run that dishwasher. How many people have started converting their light bulbs to LEDs? Wonderful. LED bulbs are one of the most impactful things that we can change in our house that will make a huge, huge impact on your electric bill. When we worked with the weatherization program, we would switch out all the light bulbs in the house, and the next month, the energy bill that these people would get by switching out their light bulbs was, they'd call us and be like, what happened? Why did my bill drop so much? Because they use so much less energy than regular bulbs, incandescent bulbs, and even the CFL bulbs, the little pigtail bulbs that we all saw and were buying for a long time. Those are great. LEDs kick their butts on their energy savings and on the longevity of that bulb. You can buy LED bulbs and they can last up to 10 years. And when they first came out, sticker shock, they were crazy expensive. They're not. You can find some really great sales on LED bulbs. They come in all shapes, all sizes. They come in dimmable, the wattage, the color. They have gotten really, really savvy with LED bulbs now. So if you were turned off by them at first because you didn't feel they were bright enough or they didn't fit in certain fixtures that you had, go back to the store, check it out. They've made a lot of changes, a lot of different things that you can do with LED bulbs that now pretty much any light fixture you have can be changed out. And a plug for the Habitat Restore, we often have LED bulbs, 4 packs for $2. So it's 50 cents a bulb, and that bulb is probably gonna save you 50 cents in the first month. All right, use bigger light for space. So, you know, if you've got something that's really cute and it takes 4 bulbs, but they're really dim bulbs, get a lamp that ejects a lot of light with a bigger bulb, but that's gonna save you energy. One of the things that we always love is dimmer switches. A lot of times, you know, there's different times when bright light's really important, but if we can dim it a little bit, we're using less energy. And so dimmer switches are easy things that you can install. Like I said, there's LED bulbs now that are dimmable bulbs, so they work really, really well with dimmer switches. How many people think about reflecting light? So if you're in a room and you want more light for your buck, put standing lamps in corners. Because especially with light colored walls, the light will reflect off those walls and it'll feel brighter in your room, so you can actually eliminate some of the lighting that you may have used. So consider how you set up your room in order to provide more light with less output. Turn off stuff when you're not using it. How many times do we tell our kids that? Shut off the light when you leave the room. We do this all the time. We leave things running, we leave things on, we turn things down instead of off. There's a term that we use in kind of the energy field. It's called phantom load. And a phantom load is the energy that something sucks when you're not using it. So you plug your toaster in, you're not toasting toast. That toaster is sending a signal back and forth to be like, are you making toast? Do you want to make toast? Should we make toast? When you plug in your cell phone and it's charged at 100%, but you leave it in the plug-in all night, that cord is going, is it charged? Is it charged? Is it charged? Is it charged? So it's sending pulses to check. And so when you're not using something, unplug it. I am like the crazy unplugger in my house. Like I go behind everybody and I'm unplugging things and they'll be like, I wasn't done with that. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. But I, like that phantom load is something I'm really concerned about all the time. Make sure you're keeping your refrigerator and your freezer at appropriate temperatures. Here's the rule of thumb: freezer, pack it, fridge, leave space. So a freezer and a fridge, the fridge part and the freezer part operate differently. The freezer wants to be really cold. You want things really packed tight so that there's none of that cold leaks out when you open the door. You want them to kind of keep each other cold, be close together, frozen, wonderful, beautiful. Refrigerator's different. A refrigerator's got a fan that blows that cold air all throughout it. If you pack that refrigerator, that fan starts hitting things as it's going through, and that air can't flow, and so that refrigerator's gonna run more. So make sure you're thinking about airflow in your refrigerator. I know it's weird, but I do it. You know, manually defrost things. Make sure you do it on a regular basis as well. Overfrosting in freezers can really impact the efficiency because it's heating up and keeping ice cold that you don't need to. You know, use your oven to make multiple meals. Cook things all the time. Use that oven door when you're done. Keep it open and let that heat dissipate in your house rather than the fan just blowing it away. How many people come home from work and go, what are we gonna have for dinner? Chicken, frozen. Okay, I'm gonna defrost it in the microwave. Plan meals ahead. Defrosting items before you cook them saves 1/3 of the energy used to make it. So thinking ahead about your meals, taking things out of the refrigerator can really save on your energy costs. How many people do like I do? This is one of my things that I am definitely known for. Throwing things in the dryer and then going and doing 14,000 other things, and then it sits in the dryer for like an hour before you remember, and you go fold the clothes and you put your new load in. That is extremely inefficient. Some of the newer dryers will even show you that if you move one load in right after finishing drying another, the time to dry is reduced by sometimes up to 10 minutes because your dryer's hot already. So it's already built up that heat. And so if you hear the dryer ding, and a lot of our dryers nowadays have those really annoying sounds that they make when they're done, telling you, come on, come and get me, go get it. Go take those clothes out of there, take them out of the dryer, set them aside to fold later, but move those items from the washer into the dryer and get it going so that you can reuse that heat that's already been built up in the dryer. Change your ceiling fans. You know, you want them to blow. So I think we've all heard hot air rises. And so in the wintertime, they come out of the vents in the ground, and the hot air goes up into the air, and it sits up at the top of your ceiling. So you want your ceiling fans to move that hot air down. It's the same thing in the summer months. You want it to go the other way because you want to be able to pick that hot air up that's been sitting around in your house and keep it up there on the ceiling. And then I think the biggest two things that I can say as far as energy savings is programmable thermostats. There's been so many studies on the impact that programmable thermostats make. And there's this kind of old wives' tale that if you keep your temperature in your house at an ambient, steady temperature all the time, it actually saves you more money than if you up and down, up and down, and up and down your heat. Not true, 100%. Get rid of that thought. It doesn't. Nope. Turning your temperature up and down when you're in the house, not in the house, you know, need the heat, don't need the heat, saves you energy across the board. So to just set it at a regular temperature, even when you're not at home, does not save you energy. And they have debunked that a long time ago, but it's still kind of going around there. So programmable thermostats, they have apps on your phone that you can set the temperature when you're not there. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Utilize them. And again, the technology on these things has gotten so much better that these programmable thermostats, the price has gone way down. You can buy a lot of times programmable thermostats that are very simple for very cheap. So if you have the old crank thermostat, consider buying a programmable thermostat. And then the final thing, buy Energy Star appliances. Anytime you buy a new appliance, again, they're not rare anymore. A ton of appliances are Energy Star rated nowadays. I mean, from toasters to mixers to everything. And you know, when they first came out, you paid a premium for those Energy Star appliances, and they're pretty much standard nowadays. So really just watch for the Energy Star seal when you're looking at replacing something. So any tips that you guys have that you might use? Awesome. How many people are going to go home and kind of take a little stock of their house? Awesome. All right. So now we're going to learn about some things that you can do at home from our good friend Curtis on ways that you can do some bigger repairs to save energy on your home. So one of the things that we do talk about, though, before we get into this, is you do have to consider the cost versus the savings. So when you invest in energy saving things on your home, you've got to consider, what can I afford? And Curtis is going to talk about some of the cheaper things that you can do. But a lot of us think that we have to spend a lot of money in order to, make repairs to save energy on our homes. And spending a lot of money, then it takes a lot of time for you to earn that money back in the work that you did. So a lot of people think, oh, the biggest and best thing I can do is replace all of my windows. Well, windows, they're wonderful. Energy efficient windows are wonderful. They will definitely save you money, but they take a very, very, very long time to pay themselves back for what you paid for those windows. And so there's a lot cheaper investments that you can make on your house to save energy than those things that we always kind of tend to think about. And so unless you've got a giant gaping hole in your window, that window is doing somewhat of a job to stop the air from going back and forth from the outside to the inside. And so think about some of the things that we are going to be talking about with Curtis. And I keep pointing at the wrong things. But here's the top 8 energy efficient improvements. And you can see, they talk about installing new windows and doors, but they also say sealing can be one of the biggest things that you can do. So if you have decent windows, just making sure you're sealing the leaks, but replacing your appliances, installing that programmable thermostat, insulation in your attic, heat rises, you want it to stop before it gets out of your house. And when we talk about air conditioning, we're talking about how the air feels. With ceiling fans, your water system is a big suck on energy, improving your lighting, and again, investing in Energy Star appliances. Okay, And then this just talks about air leaks, and I think Curtis is going to get into this with some of the stuff he's going to talk about. So if you want to take it away, Curtis.
Thank you, Kahya. I'm going to be talking about fairly practical things, and I'd like to make this as relevant as possible. And I would like to begin with a survey. If you know the age of your home, would you tell me what it is? If is it 100 years old, 75 years, 50 years old, or 25? We'll just go by
75.
75?
75.
75? 90, okay. Any home that's going to be in that ballpark is going to have some drafts, some things that need to be taken care of. You probably wouldn't be out here on a Wednesday evening with the threat of weather and so on if you didn't have some interest in weatherization. Is there, when you look down here on the floor with the things I have brought, is a caulk gun something you've used yourselves? Okay. Is a can of foam something you've used yourselves? Okay. I'm gonna be, when I still haven't done some, well, I brought this from work today. I used this can at work today. I shook it this morning. It actually had, I think, frozen or something. It didn't come out real strong. I'm going to be talking about a couple different options with foam, but foam is one of the things that we can use to, if the gap is ½ inch or bigger, foam is a wonderful cure-all. We'll be talking here. We're going to be talking about homes and sealing up some of these places where energy heat gets out. Heat is going to get out all over the place, as you can see on this diagram. It's going to get out through the attic, the ceiling, the walls, the windows, the doors, the floor, the foundation. It'll get out everywhere because heat always goes from warmer to colder. It'll go from the warmer object to the colder object. And that's just something we know as soon as we step outside, except on a day like this. Actually, I stepped out inside, it was warmer outside than it was inside the house. When the heat is transferring from the inside of the house to the outside, there's 3 different ways that it moves. And you probably got this somewhere in a science class in school. There at the bottom with all the little rays of red going up, that's radiating energy, radiating heat coming off of the fire there or a burner on a stove. Inside the pot there we have black arrows going up and down, circulating around. That's energy transfer that's going on within a fluid. And then we have a 3rd arrow, and that's on the handle, and that's conductive energy transfer. So we have radiation, we have convection, and we have conduction. All those are going on in the house. Radiation goes on when the sun is shining on the house. One of the best things to do for radiation energy conservation is to put a steel roof on your house. And steel roof will reflect radiant energy away from the house. It's most effective in the summer months because it will drop the temperature in the attic by 30 degrees, and that will dramatically impact the comfort level of your home. We won't be talking anymore though about radiant energy here tonight, because most of the, and I'm going to talk a little bit about conduction, and that's the stuff in the handle. That's the transfer of energy through a solid material. And mostly what we do there in a house is to stop that transfer of energy, that heat, is to put in insulation. Because if you have a wood wall, the heat will transfer through the wood 2x4 or 2x6, and from the drywall to the 2x4 to the outside siding and out through the wall, just through the solid parts of the house. No draft, no air leakage, it'll just transfer heat out. We put in the cavities, any cavities that we have, we put in insulation. We all know what fiberglass insulation is, cellulose insulation, foam insulation. We can put it in any form, but what we're doing there is to try to stop the conduction, or I mean the conduction of heat out of the home. The third thing that we're going to be talking about is kind of the drafts, the convection losses, and that's where the air gets heated up and the air just blows itself right out of the house through a hole, and that can happen in surprisingly many ways in a house.
Get aim towards it.
Oh, I got to aim.
I kept aiming around too.
Now here's a house. We're going to try to talk about some particulars here. This is a house that I got photos here from Kevin Conroy, who works for the city of La Crosse. He used to do, or he does energy audits and stuff. And you have one that was a printout of his, and he shared with us. And some of the pictures that we're going to go through are actually actually it's not. This picture isn't in that packet, but some of these pictures will be in that packet. Here's a typical house. Here's a house, a very particular house, and one of the things we're going to see here is that this house, like every house, has box sills. The box sill here this is the rim joist going around the house. These are the floor joists coming up, sitting on the foundation wall in the basement, and what you see there is that there's electrical wiring going through here. And what's on the other side of that rim joist? There's a little bit of siding and the outside. So on the other side of that in the wintertime would be maybe a 50-degree difference from what's inside. If you remember that first image of the two thermometers, that's a vast temperature difference. When that happens, heat wants to really move pretty fast. Why is the wind going to be blowing tonight? We've had a very unusual 60-some degree day here in Wisconsin. There's a major temperature difference going on our continent. The wind is going to be moving fast to move that heat. It's just basic thermodynamics, and it happens in our houses all the time. Sometimes we have dramatic experiences of it, like we will tonight, just outside. When we see a box sill like that, these are one of the places that get forgotten, and they need to be weatherized. And there's several ways to do that. One is to take a can of foam like this and go up in here and spray along that joint and spray along this joint, and then take insulation that can be solid or it can be fiberglass and pack this area full of insulation. Then you do that at every gap, every cavity there that you see. If at any point you see something penetrating through this rim joist there, you also want to seal that with foam. And I know that I replaced a exterior faucet to the garden hose that I used in the garden, and I had to go through that rim joist in my house. And in the summertime, it didn't matter if I weatherized that. I have to go back and still do that, and I'm going to be doing that this week because I'm reminding myself that I need to do that. There's a hole in my house that I made a little bit bigger this summer, and I need to go back and fill it in. Are your rim joists insulated? Some of you know, some of you aren't so sure. Check it out. Here is that house that we saw that picture of. This is the back side of the house. There's just a basement wall there. It's, you walk in the front, you have a walkout basement, but that's a lot of wall with a fairly conductive material. Block wall concrete will conduct heat pretty fast. That's the front side. No, that's the next house. Okay. What kind of insulation would you put on that? You can do two things. You could put foam, like you could buy a 4x8 sheet of foam, and you could put that on there, or you could stud the wall up and then put fiberglass inside the cavities of the 2x4s, and then you could also spray it with foam if you had a large capacity ability to do that. This is another house. This is a house that's, around that 75-year-old range. There's a few things looking at it that we're gonna, you might be able to see just from the outside picture that there'd be some concerns, but we're gonna look inside. And one of the pictures that you'll see here is, you see that arrow? I don't know if you paid attention to this on the first picture, but if you crawled up in the attic and looked out down through that area, you would see that there's going to be air leaking up into this whole space up here and drafting up through the attic space. And depending on, and if you see there isn't a lot of insulation there, and that draft is going to be pulling heat out of the house. Also in this house, there's a chimney. Chimneys are usually covered up pretty well on the main floor. If it goes through a bedroom, in a closet, it's covered up pretty well, but almost always in the basement, there's a place where there's a crack running between the floor joists or just the floor, and oftentimes those are not sealed. And you will have a strong draft, and it'll be a chimney effect type of thing that's working not inside the chimney, but outside of the chimney where you don't want it to be. So you need to go through here with foam and insulate, just stop all those gaps from transferring heat out of your house. Here's another house, and this one is a little bit newer. And we're going to a little newer house. We're going to introduce a little newer technology here. This is an infrared photo of a house, not that particular house, but infrared photography will give us an image of the heat content of the material that it's photographing. And you can see there that there's different things going on with the windows and the roof being quite red, some of the walls, some of the places being green and blue. It's just a reflection of how much heat is in those surfaces. Now we're going to go inside this particular house and take some more pictures. Does anybody, okay, so this is a regular photograph, and this is the infrared photograph of the same area. This light, recessed light up here, is this light right here. And as you can see, that light is not well sealed. There's a lot of air leaking around that light. It's transferring a lot of heat out of that room. Again, you can probably, a can of foam. I'm holding it here in my hand the whole way through because you probably want to just seal those places up. And once you seal them up, then you, in the attic space, or if that's attic space, then you go up above it and pack insulation around it as well. Here's a basement wall in this house. It's kind of a dark picture here, but there's the electrical panel. This is just the inside of the concrete wall. And you can see the picture of it there in infrared. It's very blue. It's transferring a lot of heat. And that's a big wall. It's the basements, if they're not insulated, they're gonna feel cold, but in the wintertime, it's because there's a lot of heat going out there. And again, that's probably a good place to put in either styrofoam panels or stud it out, put in fiberglass or something else, or just foam it over. Here's a picture of looks like a bedroom, and there on the lower right you see the infrared photo of this, and you can see that there's this is on the first floor. You were talking about the box seals earlier. Some of what's going on here is that you're seeing uninsulated space down right underneath the floor. But what's interesting here is that you see that the air that's coming up through, remember we were also looking at some electrical wires that were running through those floor joists? Well, those electrical wires also run around that wall and then up through the wall to an outlet right there. And there's other places in that wall that has a hole that was drilled for this or that, or maybe an old knot in the wood. The knot just, expansion and contraction fell out and created a space for air to flow through. Sometimes the corners of houses, when they're built, you put the wall studs together in the corner, but if they forget to insulate that corner in an 50 years old houses, 75-year-old houses, they just didn't do it. You'll find that that's also a space where air will travel, heat will be dissipated. Here's just a picture of a window. The visual image and the thermal image. What you can do here, what you'll see is that the window itself isn't transferring the heat out. It's this place along the side where it's going back behind the window trim and then through the space between the window jamb and the wall framing, and then out through where the outside trim is, and the air just sneaks right out through there. This is a relatively new window. And my house is over 100 years old. I have windows that have the old weights and pulleys and stuff like that, and I refurbished them somewhat, but I know there's a lot of airspace in there, and so I have to seal up the window trim to the wall to prevent that air from just going straight out. And that's where you don't want to, if you use foam, you can see how messy it can get. It will get all over the wall. It's great at sticking to things. It'll seal up holes and cracks, but it'll also get over your foam gun. It'll clog up your straw. It will get over your clothes. For small cracks, we need caulk. And caulk is something that will seal up. You just go along the outside of that trim right through there. And any place there is a seam in the trim or the jamb of the window, we seal that up. Now, if you have older windows, you also want to check the glazing, where the glass meets the frame, and make sure that that's in good condition. If you have storm windows on older windows, it's not, the sealed double glazing, but it's two layers of glass, and it's actually, not the worst thing. Kahya was talking about the cost of windows. Windows are expensive to replace, and it's better to maintain the windows you have if you're on a limited budget. And you can do that well just by caulking, sealing things up, foaming things, but it does mean either, and it depends how old your windows are. If they are old, you might want to take off this trim piece and actually stuff insulation, fiberglass insulation, into the cavity that's between the window jamb and the wall studs. Because just sealing it with the caulk probably won't be quite enough to really, take care of what are potential problems right there. Oh, that was all of my pictures. And we're about time for question and answers too.
This quick, I'll go through this really quick. And I think you saw the first slide before Curtis got into this. 15 to 30% of your energy bills are going out through holes, leaks, areas where air is conducting out of the house. So, consider that. Find those holes. Where is the air leaking out? If you can't afford an energy audit, those things can be kind of expensive, but there's professionals out there that do that. They have the IR cameras. They do what's called a blower door test that actually depressurizes your house. It pulls air so that you can really see and feel where those holes are. And so that's really great information. They usually give you a report that tells you all the different things that you can do, whether you can do it yourself, whether you should hire a professional. They're really a lot of really great information. But if you can't do that, you can feel, where the cold air is coming from. We used to do things like holding up candles where you have a flame. The flame will move if there's air moving. So if you're like, I think there might be a leak around here, hold that candle up and find out. One of the things that I want to make sure that we're aware of is you can tighten your house up too much. Air also needs to come into your house. You need fresh air. And when we started talking about like weatherization and energy conservation and tightening up houses to conserve energy, there was really a lot of awesome stuff that was happening. So contractors would go out and they'd build these houses and they would make them super energy efficient and they'd seal all the cracks and they'd do everything. And then they would, turn the houses over to the homeowners and the homeowners would move in and they were getting sick. Like just terribly rotten sick. And it was because the indoor air quality was so bad because you were just rebreathing the same air because no air was moving in and out of that house. And so you also have to be very aware that some air coming in and out of your house is a good thing. Which is why we have things like bath fans in our bathrooms. Those should be venting up and out of the house. And so that's helping with airflow. And your house is a pressure system. As air goes out, new air has to come back in. And so, vents on your stove, those are all things that help with the air quality in your house. So also just be aware of that. We don't want the air to stay in our house all the time. You get mold, you can get really sick from that. So tighten up your house, but leave a little bit of that airflow. It's very important to our health and to the health of our homes. So if you got bitten by the energy bug, there's a lot of other resources out there. I think we all have heard of Xcel Energy. Most of us are probably Xcel Energy customers. They have awesome programs for the folks that they provide services to. Go to their website. Most of the time they are giving packages away to their customers. That you just go in, you tell them your name and your address, and they'll be like, yep, you're a customer of Xcel Energy. And they usually ship packages that include LED lights. I know last year they were sending programmable thermostats to all of their customers who requested one. Surge protectors, energy efficient surge protectors for plugging in items. It was a box full of stuff. Low flow shower heads. They were sending out boxes to all of their customers. They have tons of different things that you can do, more tips, other incentives that you can participate in. It's an excellent website, so it's not just about paying your energy bill. They have so much information about other ways that you can save energy. Focus on Energy is the state of Wisconsin's version of Energy Star. So the state of Wisconsin actually didn't adopt Energy Star as a standard for home construction. They actually adopted what's called Focus on Energy, which is Wisconsin's very own thing. So just think of it as Wisconsin's version. Again, they have a ton of different information about energy savings. They will find you energy auditors that are certified to do whole home audits. They also have a ton of links to different rebates. So if you buy things or do improvements on your house, you can get tax incentives for the things that you do. Watch out because this money runs out. Focus on Energy gets funding from the state of Wisconsin. Those funds run out as the year goes on. And there's never a guarantee that those funds are going to come back. But new construction, existing housing, different things that you do on your home, you can qualify for different rebates. And again, tons, chock full of information on how to save energy on your home. EnergyStar.gov. Energy Star is a federally regulated system. And so again, if you are wanting to look at Energy Star rated appliances, there's a lot of information on there about that, what the standards are, and there's also links to different rebates on buying certain appliances that are Energy Star rated. Any other resources that you use? But these are your big ones. This is where you can find money for the things that you do on your home. And then any other assistance programs. So the state of Wisconsin is also really different than other states in our nation in that we really invest a lot of funding in our energy assistance and weatherization programs. So energy assistance is a program that provides assistance with your monthly heating and cooling bills, so they can help you pay your electrical and your heating costs. But they also have the weatherization program. This program is a free program for people who are income eligible for the energy assistance program. And what it does is it comes to your house, they actually do a whole home audit, and then they come back with a crew of trained specialists that do all sorts of repairs on the home to tighten up your home, make it more energy efficient. Again, this program is free. For folks who qualify for energy assistance, there's also the furnace emergency program. This is a program that if you've already signed up and are on for energy assistance, if your furnace breaks down in the winter months, they will come out and assess it within 24 hours, and they can replace or repair your furnace for free. So this is a lovely program. The state of Wisconsin really just wants to protect its citizens, and they've done a really wonderful job over the years of passing legislation, investing in these types of programs. A second program, so Home Energy Plus, is what houses the energy assistance that you get by going to your provider for each county. And then also the weatherization program. Weatherization is run by CooleyCap in our area, but there's weatherization providers all across the state of Wisconsin. They are some of the most highly trained, efficient, amazing energy installers, probably nationwide, just because of the amount of work they do and the type of work that they do. The second one though is this Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund. This is a separate program that also provides assistance for individuals who also need some help paying their energy bills. They focus on low-income families, veterans, people with disabilities, and elderly, but they receive public and private assistance to also help. So if the energy assistance you get from Home Energy Plus program doesn't cover it, there is some additional funds to make sure that people don't lose their lives because it's too cold. And the state of Wisconsin also does have a moratorium in which the larger energy providers cannot shut you off during the winter months. But this isn't true for the smaller providers. So like your co-ops and whatnot are not under that moratorium. So they don't have to deliver you fuel oil if you don't pay for it. So these are some wonderful programs for folks who maybe have a hard time with that or don't fall under the moratorium.